Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is the Dutchman and this is a quick video to update you on the progress of the Validusia mega station, which is what we have been building. Now for this video I have a lengthy news post that I wrote out on my Patreon page regarding Validusia, which I'll be reading off. Meanwhile, I'll be showing some images of the station in the background, and a little bit later we'll probably jump into some of the real-time stuff that's been going on, so you can see what's been going on there. But for now, some of the fancier images, and I will be reading off this post there. Validusia station progress. As some of you may know, a while ago I went ahead with a massive full-scale Validusia starbase in as much detail as I can realistically put on it. Now, this is the Validusia station. For those of you who don't know, this is made by Fractal Sponge, a absolutely wonderful 3D artist whose work I admire very much, and have been highly inspired by for, well, I mean, ever since I've done any 3D modeling, really. So that's what we try to reproduce, only in a even bigger form. Which I won't go into this video, but this is about the progress of the station, which so far we've been building it for a month, and we so far have this, which is not even a station. So where did all that time go? So that's basically what this has been about. Alright, turn that shit on, and here we go. Since then, a lot of progress has been made, but due to the new workflow I adopted, it sometimes feels as though the build is progressing far slower than it actually is. This is because of all the planning and pre-produced assets that have to be made for the station. Here I wanted to go in a bit of detail as to why this apparent lack of progress is needed, and the importance of the vital part of a project like this, planning and pre-production. When making an object of this size, and we're talking about like a 30 kilometer by 20 kilometer by 20 kilometer station, and I plan to make it go even bigger in the higher tier levels, but I digress. While making an object of this size and with the limitation I placed on it, you know, I want to be able to use it in Empire at War, of course. Having your workflow laid out properly beforehand is a must. With the Validusia, I'm taking lots of smaller pieces of detail. For example, sections of the main octagon that link pieces of the starbase together. And pre-producing these by finishing them completely, including lights and textures, before I do anything else. That means that I have a single section of octagon, which I have over here, of which the entire station consists, basically. That you will see this section copy-pasted throughout the whole thing. Now, the proper way to work with an object like this is first you finish this section, you texture it, you rig it, you have all the lights on there beforehand, and then you copy-paste that to the rest. Now, this prevents you from building this entire thing and then having to texture this entire thing, because it's already done. That's basically what that means. And pre-producing these by finishing them completely, including lights and textures. This ensures I only have to construct a relatively small section of the total starbase that I can then build the rest of the station out of. I first adopted this workflow when retexturing the Praetor, and that is without a doubt my best work yet, incorporating a high level of detail for a minimal amount of texture maps and model complexity. Now, what does that mean? It basically means we have a lot of quality, a lot of resolution on our texture, for not a lot of texture resolution. It's just by far the best workflow, but it takes a while. That's the long story short of it. Now, the issue with this workflow is also the best thing about it. The more care you put into the kit bash pieces you'll eventually build your station out of, the better the end result will look. And since it's easy to get lost in these small pieces of detail, making variations, improving some texture parts here and there, or optimizing the model complexity but cutting needless polygons, the pre-prep is a lengthy process. And while I've got 42 beautiful, well-detailed, and most importantly finished, hangar variations that can easily be copy-pasted to wherever they're needed on the station, or any future starship that needs a hangar for that matter, the fact is that that takes a serious amount of time to actually build these individual pieces. And it makes it seem like the overall build is making little to no progress while you're building these hangar variations that you can then slap everywhere, because it still takes a lot of time to actually, you know, make all that shit and optimize them. Of course, nothing could be more wrong. I'm using all the techniques I've learned over the past years as a 3D and 2D artist while working on the station, and I can safely say that that since my first mega project, The Executor, I have improved immensely. But the speed of the build bothers me nonetheless. Whereas before I built each section by hand, seeing the build progress as you spend more time on it. You know, the normal way of you make the entire thing by hand and you don't give it a second thought until you get to the texture process, and then you're suddenly stuck with a gigantic station texture. Now I do it this way. The kit bash piece method, trim sheets, that sort of thing, works way better. It's faster in the long run. It's far, far, far superior for quality, but again, makes it seem like it's going very slowly, when in fact this is by far the best way of doing it, and it saves time in the long run. But while in progress, you know, it goes very slowly. Since the Executor, I've improved immensely, but the speed of the build bothers me nonetheless. Progress, no. Build each section by hand, seeing the build progress as you spend more time on it. Now my vastly improved method consists of spending lots of time on small details that affect the entire station. This makes it easy to think nothing of importance is happening. Small, because, you know, you're working on small details, but it's a huge fucking station. Yeah, that's just it. It makes it easy to think nothing of importance is actually happening, whereas each individual piece you work on is going to tremendously impact the entire thing. Validusia is as much a pre-prep of all future Starship designs as it is a pre-prep for the station build itself. If we ever need hangars, hull details, textures, greebling, cityscape, that's like being worked on like right here. Some of these pieces, by the way, credit to Wolf for allowing us to use some of those pieces and then modifying them further. Again, all of the hangar variations here, and I've got more variations over here. All of these pieces, all of this. This can all be reused on future builds, whether that be a starbase, whether that be a starship. Eventually, I want to redo all of my earlier work, such as all the Star Destroyers, since by this point these are like, what, 5 years or so old, and they're showing their age. They're not as good as a lot of the work other people are producing, and I plan to eventually redo them all. And all of the pre-packed details, such as all of this detail from the Praetor, can then be very easily used to make those builds go substantially faster. If we ever need all those things, large gas refiners on any other piece of Validusia in any future build, these pieces will be textured and ready to be used, reducing build time substantially. While this is invaluable and having a large set of pre-produced greebles at the ready is amazing, it nonetheless means that for this particular build, all that has to be made, and that is what has been taking so long. I got on my way to make some variations for pieces that we don't specifically need right now, even rather excessive shit, such as these hangar bays have... I want to show you guys quickly into how much detail we actually go with this shit. I have a TIE bomber in here somewhere. No idea where the hell I have it though. Hang on, let me grab that. TIE bomber, where is that bad boy? Right there. Again, it's a pretty large station, guys. Where are the nearest hangar variations? Right here. This is into how much detail I'm going with this. So here we have a couple of hangars. So much for reading off the news post, but that's fine. What you can do here with these hangars, for example, is you can take any of your TIEs which are to scale in Empire at War, and you can actually like dock them onto the dock them into the hangars here, and they'll line up with the walkways. You can put defenders here, TIE fighters. It all fits. There's no model clipping, and you can also just put them onto the deck in the designated like landing zones and shit. And that all fits for like all the units. Now you can do that for any of the hangars. We have a bunch of variations. We got the like single depth, the dual depth, the triple depth, which is like, well, I mean, it's kind of the same hangar, but it's still it's longer. It makes for a little bit of variation, which means that if you look at, for example, the main docking area here, Don't mind that texture, that's just a material issue. You can have variations in the depth of your hangars, so that, for example, while this hangar ends right here and it's fairly shallow, the hangar underneath of it is far wider, or deeper, I suppose. And that little bit of variation can do wonders for breaking up the monotony of your design. We have a whole bunch of vertical hangars here, which you could just go into like this. Now there's like a whole bunch of variations for those as well in terms of size. Again, it just helps to break up the monotony, right? Do we really need all that variation? Nah, probably not particularly. The most excessive thing I've done so far is building variations of these hangars which do not in fact have this opening with the bowl shape on the bottom and then a angular piece there. But we also have more traditional hangars which have a round opening, as you can see. Right? That's probably the most excessive thing we've done so far, but you know, this is Empire stuff, and I figured we want the traditional hangars as well. Anyway, point being, we're also spending time on doing these variations for things that we don't necessarily need right now, even though we are using both variations on the hangars on the station right now. For example, in the main dock area we have the original hangars. Which look like that, with this opening, and then on the spaceport section of the station we are using the round opening hangars. Again, it's just a little bit of variation. It's not strictly necessary, but it does really increase that feeling of enjoyment that at least I get when looking at these things, right? Yeah. All of this can be used on future builds as well, and will definitely be used. All of this detail. It may not seem like much, but out of all this shit, including like that trench and a few of these pieces here, we managed to build the entirety of the Praetor, which looks something like that right now. Which I think is by far my best work, and for a ridiculously low level of texture memory that has to be loaded. Oh, that is OBS. The stream is currently live. We're making this video live, so as you can see here, a lot of detail is reused, but that's really the key, because it makes it so that you only have to detail, or you only have to texture like a small piece, which means you can go nuts on the texture resolution. Well, not nuts, but you know, it's optimized. While maintaining that relatively high texture resolution throughout the whole ship, right? And then you just map some pieces like this over to a tiling texture, and voila, you have, for very little texture memory, you have a very high that's actually an issue, floating lights. You have a very high resolution ship, which you can even look up to up close and it'll still look pretty good. And again, very, very, very optimized using this kit bash piece method, pre-textured. So this is by far the best way of doing this, at least that I've learned how to do this. And we're using it across the Validusia. It's just slow as shit, and while in progress, which it's still very much in progress, it looks like there is no fucking progress being made, because all of the time goes into the fucking kit bash pieces, like the gas canisters or the individual sections for the gas refinery. And all in all, it just takes a long fucking time. But when it's done, well, no, not really when it's done, when eventually the pre-production, so to say, is finished. I'm kind of doing the pre-production while building the whole thing at the same time. But when eventually all the pieces are done, we can simply slap the whole thing together, and that'll, when it eventually comes together, it'll be quite quick. Whereas right now we just have to spend a lot of time on the individual things. That's really the whole long story short. I hope this has explained a bit why the station is taking so long, and why you don't see swaths of the station model already finished. I'm doing the work up front and getting better results later, and while frustrating, it is the best way forward. I've included a compilation image of the Praetor texture, in the hopes you guys will agree this method does indeed produce the best results. Even though while in production, progress isn't always as evident, and that is all just the images I uploaded to Patreon. So that was half me reading the Patreon page and half me just kind of explaining it in real time. Again, a lot of progress has been made and a lot of pieces have been redone. The hangars have been redone several times at this point. They have been optimized in terms of try count, which is basically complexity, model complexity. Doing that allows us to have things like very low res walkways in there, while not it completely breaking the game, you know. First these were triangles, now they're single faces, that sort of stuff. Textures have been redone. In fact, this entire texture has been completely rebuilt from scratch using the Jedi Knight hangar textures. It's overall been a giant ride, but when this is all eventually done, we can reuse it on every ship going forward, and it's going to save us time for every subsequent progress we use all these pieces on. So I hope that has explained a bit where all of the time has been going. I know it's taken a while. I know it's maybe not as exciting seeing all these small pieces like being worked on. It's all relatively small and all that. But yeah, just trust me when I say it has huge effects, and this is the best way forward. And I really hope that the quality of the Praetor retexture and the optimizations that brings is evidence of that statement. So yeah, I'm just gonna let the results speak for itself. This is, in my opinion, my best work. I'm going to continue to do things this way because I think it's the best way. It's the most optimized. It produces by far the best results I've ever done, and well, it allows you to do shit like this in a game that is like more than 10 years old. At this point it's getting closer to 15, I think. So, thank you all for watching this rather lengthy video. I'll be continuing to build the thing on the live stream. The link of that is in the description, of course, as is the Patreon page if you want to support me as I do ever increasingly dumber things with 3D modeling. Well, I mean, there you have it. I'm still progressing as an artist, and I hope to get back or get better with these types of things in the future. I'm quite critical of my earlier work, and in fact, this whole retexture had been the result of some other modders saying that some of the textures in the mod were a little off-putting, which I completely agree with, by the way. And so I said, all right, fuck it, let's do this the proper way. And then this came out, and I had a holy shit moment. I should have been doing this years ago, and now we are doing everything this way. It just takes a long fucking time to get set up when you still have to make all the individual pieces. But yeah, that's me going in circles for now. Thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope that has been explaining where all of my time has been going as of late, and I hope you're going to be as excited for this whole thing as I am, because when this is done, I think this is going to be pretty awesome. Got some new game mechanics to go with the station when the whole thing is eventually done and implemented in the game. If you want details on that, just head over to the Discord server. Link should also be down below. And that is going to explain in depth how that whole thing is going to work. For now, I'll see you all later. Bye bye.